All of you are eagerly waiting for panel discussion session. Our panel discussion today will feature insights from Professor Amresh Samantraya, Sri Samuganandam and Mr. Shine Jacob. The discussion will be moderated by Professor V. Mariappan. To further glory of our panel discussion, we have with us our Honorable Vice Chancellor
K. Tarani Karasu, a forward-looking leader determined to take the university to greater heights with his ideas and thoughts. The occasion is also graced by our beloved Dean, School of Management, Dr. Malavika Dio. We on behalf of School of Management welcome our Vice Chancellor, all the panelists, Dean, School of Management, and all the heads of department, professors, scholars, and students for the panel discussion session. To inaugurate this session, I invite Professor K. Tarani Karasu, the Vice Chancellor in charge of Pondicherry University.
Respected Dean, School of Management, Professor Malavika Dio, and Professor Amresh Samantraya, who has given a talk about making of union budget, and Sri V. Shanmuganandam, Chairman CAA Pondicherry, and Sri Shine Jacob, Associate Editor, Business Standard, and the organizer of this event, Professor V. Mariappan, Professor Dean, Banking, Department of Banking Technology, and all the department faculty members from other departments, deans, and my dear students. Good morning, everyone. So we have assembled here for this panel discussions. So Professor Mariappan contacted me to start this panel discussion. So I thought, I was asking him, I don't know anything about this economics or the budget, but why I am basically a chemist. But I cannot cover up like this also, because since the Vice Chancellor means I have to also lead this and give the introductory talk. So as you know, we are here to discuss budget, but I came to know that also some of the students who do not have the economics background also. The economics is very interesting subject, and earlier it used to be as long as there was no discussion about deficit budget, it is a traditional budget that is in the background. But once they started, I am talking about the past few decades. So whereas now the economics plays major role, and whenever anything happening in the country, money is very important, and the role of budgeting also very important. And now it has gone into different levels. The budget is not like our family budget. It is a national budget, means it is into many scientific ideas, and there are many methods. And if you take, you are all very young, you may not know the how our country has moved from the traditional economic into the novel, the new methods, the global economic scenario. I still remember during 1991, if I am not wrong, 1991, during this at that time Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister. In 1991, I think most of you may not even born this time. So we could see, even I went to Delhi that time. Even during that time, it was the introduction of the new economic liberalization was happening that time. It was very strict. Even the foreign products was not available. Only very limited products was available. Even the cars, whatever we are seeing, the many the foreign brands was not there. Only Maruti Suzuki, even Suzuki itself is very great difficulty they were inside. So when I was in Delhi in that time, 1990, 91, 92, that time the introduction of the Coca-Cola, Pepsi was very famous. Everybody was rushing to the shops to buy what is this about Coca-Cola and then this Pepsi. They were eager to buy. And even the network, Star Network was not there, only our national TV was there. So that was the era. I just remember, think about this. So from there we have seen to now it is fully liberalized. See why I am telling this, as you think it is not the very easy transition. I don't know if you know the history of this, the economic transition, the economic liberalization, what has happened in Thailand, and some of the even Philippines, if I am not wrong. There are many countries they attempted it, and then they failed also in many countries. And being the highly populous country, if the liberalization went into little failure, then it will be a disaster. It would have been a disastrous for our country. You may not understand the economics. Economics people can tell if our economic liberalization went wrong, what would have been the disastrous. This is that time people were discussing about this. If something, because always negative, positive things always will be there. So if it went wrong, what will be happening? Because we were very orthodox, you can say, economic that time. We were very strict not to allow any foreign countries to do business inside. We were thinking that time that we are very, because that was the even during before England entered into country, we were highly self-dependent. So we were thinking until 1991 that we were thinking that we are highly self-dependent, we can run our own country, we no need to do business with other countries. That was the thinking. But in 1991, when Nasim Rao was there, this external debt was very high. And that's the reason they implemented neo-liberal policies. That was the first generation reform started from 1991 to 2000. Then we did not see back or went back. We have strengthened our, whether it is a Congress government or a BJP government or any central government, we did not touch our liberalized economic policy. That is the strength of our country. So we have reached certain stage, and at this stage the budgeting plays major role, and we have to carry forward what are the reforms. We are doing it, we have to do it. At the same time, the people also should not feel the pinch of this budgeting also. So government is taking care all those things, and please read this history, again the populist side of this budget and the social reforms based on budget. This is very interesting. I always like this as a general public. I always see this how the country grows, and you read also what went wrong when the liberalization in some of the countries, what went wrong, how they failed, and whereas India is doing successful. So definitely our hard work is there. Our policy makers were very careful, and the best, I always feel that the best administration is your stakeholders should not feel this your reforms. They should feel very happy about whatever you, that is the support, public support. Without public support, whatever you do, it is waste. So the support should be there. The government has taken very careful, calculated risk they have done, and they have been doing this from 1991 to this day. So you are all new generation people where I can say you are all enjoying because of the liberalization, and including me also. I am getting very good salary because of this reforms. When I joined in 2003, so I used to see when I will get my 10,000 pay. That was my salary in 2003 to 7. So after sixth pay commission only we used to get very high salary. So these are all effect of our liberalized economic policies. In this context, this budgeting is very important. Even small mistake, small misunderstanding of budget will lead to loss, disastrous outcome. So that is why I thought Professor Mariappan is arranging this budget talk. Please take it very seriously, and you may feel that everything is going on India well. We have every right to question. So if economy is not good, what is the meaning of empowerment? Where is the human rights? All those things comes when the economy is good. Economy is good with the right hand. So we are all, now India is democratic country. We are all talking about our rights. We are going for strike. Everything is okay as long as our economy is good. So in that context, the budget is very important. As a common citizen also, it is very important. So please take it very seriously and take the opportunity. And I thank the Department of Banking Technology for arranging this. I thank the speakers, Professor Amarish Samstraya. I know him. He was working in RBI, close association with many of the policy decisions. We used to, when he was registrar, we used to travel and he used to narrate what are the different policies that during his time when he was very close with RBI, and how it shaped, how it affected, all those things used to narrate with me, we used to discuss with me. So he is a very good speaker to give the insight about what is the background of this budgeting, as well as about how the budget is being made. Is very good. I think he has given very good talk to you, and also he is going to again talk in this panel discussion. I don't know. I know the Pondicherry is also playing major role. If I am not wrong, we have MOU with you also, correct? So they are closely associated with our university, and the business standard also is playing a major role in this budget related things. So I thank Professor Mariappan bringing this resource person, and I also thank the Department of Banking Technology for inviting me, sharing my views, even though it is not the budget related. So this is a general public view, how we have to view this budget. So maybe this will give you something more about my role is making you serious about panel. Hope I have done this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sir, for inaugurating this panel discussion. Now we move on to our panel discussion. Before we move, let me introduce our panel members.
Our first panelist, Professor Amresh Samantreya, is a renowned professor of economics at Pondicherry University, where he has been teaching for over 2 decades. Before joining Pondicherry University, he has served as an economist at Reserve Bank of India till 2010. His expertise includes econometrics, money and banking, growth theories, monetary policies, banking development, and inter-regional disparity.
Professor Amarish has authored numerous research papers and a book on India's monetary policy, apart from publishing in newspapers regularly. He has been recognized as best teacher by Pondicherry University 6 times and has served as visiting faculty at several prestigious institutions including IIM Kozhikode and TAPMI Manipal and XIMB Bhubaneswar and at RBA Staff College. Most importantly, he has been a special invitee of Ministry of Finance and NITI Ayog for budget consultations. He has been in great demand among various regulatory and policy making bodies in India and abroad. Please join me in welcoming Professor Amresh Samantaraya.
Our another eminent panelist, Sri Sanmuganandam, is a CEO of Touch Energy Technologies Private Limited, India, and chairman of CII Pondicherry. He is pioneered in field of electronics engineering, lithium battery manufacturing, UPS, renewable energy, and energy storage. He has more than 19 years of experience in various organizations such as Eskia Terica, ProView, GE, Wipro, TVS, Foscos. He made his presentation on off-grid solar technology at IIT Madras. He also published and presented his IEEE paper at International Conference on Development in Renewable Energy Technology at Dhaka about effectiveness of solar home lighting system in Asia and MEST PV system.
He is a certified Six Sigma professional. As a part of CSR initiative, he formed ENACT Energy Academy to create sustainable transformation in association with Pondicherry University, creating livelihood for the rural youth and women through the business opportunities also. He is also IMC chairman for Women's ITI Puducherry. Please join me in welcoming Sri Shanmuganandam.
It's my pleasure to introduce our third distinguished speaker for today, Mr. Shine Jacob. Mr. Jacob is seasoned journalist and writer with an impressive career spanning over 16 years in both print and electronic media. Throughout his career, he has covered a wide range of sectors including energy, infrastructures, logistics, and the automobile industry.
Mr. Jacob is one of the few journalists of his generation who has had opportunity to work as a finance journalist in three major metro cities, Kolkata, New Delhi, and Chennai. He currently holds the position of Associate Editor at Business Standard in Chennai. We are honored to have Mr. Shine Jacob with us today. Please join me in welcoming him. Now, it's time for honoring our beloved mentors and speakers. For this, I would like to invite our respected Dean, Professor Malabika Dio, to honor our Vice Chancellor, Professor K. Taranikarasu. Now, I invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor K. Taranikarasu, to honor our respected speakers, Professor Amresh Samantaraya, Sri V. Shanmuganandam, and Sri Shine Jacob.
Next, we would like to invite Professor V. Mariappan, Head of Department of Banking Technology, to honor Professor Malvika Dio, Dean, School of Management.
I now hand over the session to Professor Mariappan, Head of the Department Banking Technology, to lead the discussion.
So good afternoon all. I said good afternoon. Yes. Observation is the greatest teacher, more than the teachers here. Right. What you have witnessed is a lack of observation. Anyway, it's fine. Before I move on to the business for which we are assembled here, I just want to appreciate all the people who are sitting right on the opposite side. Right. Give a clap for yourself. Because any program is successful only when we have a decent audience. We can't afford to speak to the fans, chairs, air conditioners. Right. So I would like to thank the heads of the department, the scholars and the students assembled from the School of Management and others who made this program so far a great success. And I also like to thank the professors from other departments sitting here to listen to the panel discussion. And one thing I have to mention, the idea of this panel discussion is to bring the best of the people from the business, from the industry. We wanted to have an economist. We have an economist in the name of Professor Amresh Samantaraya. We wanted to bring an industrialist, his perspective on the budget. We have Mr. Shanmuganandam, the right person representing the CII Pondicherry. We also wanted to have a journalistic perspective for this discussion. So we have Mr. Shine Jacob joined here. I have to especially thank our Mr. Shanmuganandam and Shine Jacob. We know the reasons. I don't want to explain here. You have listened to, my role is to moderate. I don't want to take much time. Already we are delayed like Indian Railways. I'll be just soon hand over the stage to our speakers. The idea of this is, budget is the backbone for the nation. You have listened enough. Right? Budget is one of the tools for managing our finances for the country. Our Vice Chancellor introducing himself as a chemist, but he had gone in length in explaining the history and the journey of new economic policy and the reforms that happened over the period. Right. Therefore, we have all resourceful persons here. After hearing from the introduction of all the panelists, I am sure you are going to have a great treat, and I assure at the end of 1 hour or a little more hour from now, you will be an enriched person in terms of budget making, and you can confidently speak to anyone on this subject. That is the idea of this, and that's where we are assembled here. So with this a brief note, can anyone believe that you can afford to miss or afford to not to knowing about budget, union budget now? I am sure nobody will raise the hand if I ask a question. Right. So, and almost most of you are the first years of various management programs. So it's a great treat immediately joining the university campus. You got a great opportunity. I would like to expect you to interact as much as possible. Ask challenging questions to our speakers, not ordinary questions. Ask challenging questions, and that will be the success of this program. So with this brief, first of all, first I request our Professor Amresh Samantaraya. As he has been introduced, he will give you the macroeconomic perspective of budget 2024, followed by others. So now I invite Professor Samantaraya to give away his perspective of budget 2024.
Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dean, School of Management, Professor Mariappan, HOD, Department of Banking Technology, my fellow panelists, Mr. Sarmaganand and Mr. Jacob, distinguished faculty members and friends, scholars, students. So, to start with, I'm very delighted. In addition to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, there is another scientist, Professor Sethi. He is also attracted to hear about budget. Of course, budget matters for all. But then, knowing details about, little more about the budget, he is very curious. I'm very happy to see this, notice this. Now, I'll start from what our Honorable Vice Chancellor gave a cue. He was talking about he is a beneficiary of the post-reform period, and he mentioned that prior to Sixth Pay Commission, he was not expecting to get a salary of 10,000 that early. I'll take it little backward. Of course, if you remember, I had shown you a graph in the previous session, the per capita income movement, per capita income in India for last 78 years. So in early 50s, per capita income in India was around 14,000. So average Indian was earning around 14,000, and today that number is around 1 lakh. So this is basically the progress which we have made. And in this connection, I'll just tell another story which my professor told me. My professor, Professor B. Kamaya of University of Hyderabad, he mentioned that during his early days when he joined as a professor, he was expecting, given the salary, in his lifetime, he can either have a house or a car, not both. But today, the moment many of you join the job, within 1 year you will have both. That is the difference we have, the long way which we have passed through. And I will basically reiterate the same story, which also our Dean mentioned in the morning, that we have a dream. The Prime Minister, he was courageous enough to sort of see a dream or sort of tell the story that India can become a developed economy by 2047. So the Vikasit Bharat dream, and as I said in the morning, the budget has several aspects, several economic objectives to to realize. One is the long-term objective, and another the short-term, addressing the short-term concerns. So I'll start with this Vikasit Bharat dream. So if India has to become Vikasit Bharat, this is the present situation. It's around 2020. So you see the distinction of the countries in terms of their economic profile. So you have high-income countries in dark green, and rich countries, upper middle income countries in green, and then dark, pink is your low income country, and we are somewhere in light. What is happening? Okay, fine, thank you. So India is a low middle income country now, but prior to 2007, we are part of the poor country club. So just recently we have migrated from poor to lower middle income, and by 47, if we realize the dream which the Prime Minister has shown, we can become an advanced economy. And this way the World Bank basically classifies the countries as per the income profile, per capita income terms. So we are in the third from the top, and we are planning to move to the topmost, the rich country club. So presently our per capita income in dollar terms is around 2,000 plus. Okay, so we need to achieve the nearly 14,000 number to be part of that. And there are some studies which have established that to realize this dream of Vikasit Bharat, India need to grow at the rate of 8 to 10% in a year. Again, I'll take you back to the graph which I showed in the morning. In first 30 years, when our progress in raising our per capita income was slow, in those years we are growing at the rate of 3.5%. Recently, last 30 years, when it has become steeper, our growth is nearly 6.5%. So growth is the key. Not only you need to have achieve a higher growth, but maintaining it uninterrupted, right? So to that extent, the finance minister in the interim budget has already told that, Vikasit Bharat dream need to be realized. And in the present budget, 24-25, in second paras, he is mentioning that the present budget is one step towards that. And we need to travel another 25-30 steps to reach that, provided we, all of us as stakeholders behave properly, and then government comes up with suitable economic policy which can sort of sustain our economic growth. So in that context, I'm trying to show you this graph. For raising your per capita income, students of economics will tell, having high saving rate, high investment is critical. So this is again our growth in over different decades, which you see in the red line, and in the progress of our growth is concomitantly associated with raising our saving rate, investment rate, right? And there was a phase 2003 to 2008 when India was growing at nearly 8 to 9%. In those days, our investment rate was nearly 35%. And today, the investment rate is 30%. So if you want to grow at 8 to 10% consistently and become a rich country by 2047, what we have to ensure is raising our investment rate to 35% or so. And that cannot happen unless government behaves responsibly in fiscal policy. So reducing fiscal deficit is one way of reducing government dis-saving, or in other words, by raising overall savings. See, overall saving rate is partly the household save, partly the corporate save, and partly government. So if government is reducing its dis-saving, so implicitly it is contributing to raising overall saving rate, and overall saving rate, basically that is the base for your investment. So basically our investment expenditure, setting of factories, machines, constructing buildings, these you are financing either from domestic saving largely and little bit from foreign saving, right, through FDI and FI, etc. So raising investment is key, and to that extent this budget had emphasized on fiscal consolidation, which I told in the morning, to raise domestic saving rate and investment rate. Now, as I said, there are two things. One is looking at the long-term requirement, and the second is current situation. So current situation, growth has bounced back. Last 3 years we are growing at 7% plus after the COVID-19, and then inflation also is largely in comfortable zone. These are projections for the next year. Finance Minister also mentioned in economic survey, this is also highlighted, that we are expecting nearly 4 to 5% inflation for the forthcoming year. So in that context, growth is comfortable, okay? I mean, there is no concern to push the accelerator to raise the growth aggressively now, and on inflation front, things are comfortable. So in that background, the macroeconomic background, which I talked in the morning, we went for, this budget has preferred for fiscal consolidation, right? So, you understand what is the reason. By reducing government saving, you can raise overall saving, in domestic saving, and then you can raise investment, which is critical to achieve higher growth rate of 8 to 10% and become a rich country by 2047. And also in the expenditure portfolio, there is more emphasis on capital expenditure. So with more capital expenditure, you can create capacity for supporting long-term growth. So again, according to me, this budget was quite right in emphasizing on the long-term requirements of the economy to realize the Vikasit Bharat dream by 2047 or 2050. And this was the budget at glance which I have shown to you. Here I am showing you how the fiscal consolidation process is going on. So a fiscal deficit to GDP ratio is the dark blue line at the top. So in 2021 it was around 9%. That was required to address the concerns of economic slowdown due to COVID pandemic. Then after that we started the correction, and for the 24-25 budget it is now sub 5%, which is a matter of comfort. And if basically this, what I have done here, see, for last 3 years 6.4, 5.6 and 4.9, if I am extending it, assuming that path is extended, then we will be able to achieve 3% of fiscal deficit to GDP ratio in 2028-29, which is our FRBM goal, right? the Fiscal Responsibility Budget Management Act, is based on the idea that as long as India is able to, Union government is maintaining a fiscal deficit to GDP ratio of 3%, and state governments put together maintaining their state gross fiscal deficit to GSDP ratio of 3%, then that is in the long term interest of the country. So perhaps we are on the right path, which is sort of advanced in the current budget. So the fiscal deficit and capital expenditure largely matching today. Okay, so this is a matter of encouragement. See, if I am borrowing for paying interest rate, paying pension, paying salary, it is in a way, you cannot sustain it. When I'm borrowing, I'm paying an interest rate, and when I'm paying interest rate, there is no return on that. So if you are borrowing to install some roads, create some infrastructure, which will give a return in terms of growth, then perhaps you can sustain your debt, and we are on the right path. So this is the encouragement, an encouraging graph which you can see. In between we had a decline in our capital deficit, capital expenditure to total expenditure in union budget, and for some time it was almost stagnant. But last couple of years, you see there is a significant jump in the share of capital expenditure in overall expenditure. The point I am emphasizing in terms of quality of expenditure, capital expenditure is basically preferred for to sustain your long-term growth. And the subsidies we are trying to prune. Of course, in this is the COVID year when it has increased significantly. After that, we are trying to adjust. And this is the interest payment to GDP ratio. So interest payment is a wasteful expenditure in a way. So combined interest payment to GDP ratio was around 6% plus during early 2000s, and then there was some adjustment, as you can see. But again, this is the COVID year. You see, for union government, the ratio was around 3.4. In the current budget, that is adjusted to 3.1. This again another plus point where we are trying to reduce the wasteful expenditure. And but some essential socio-developmental related expenditure is maintained. So other than the MGNREGA, you can see in the current budget there is increase in outlay for all the components: housing for all, rural infrastructure, irrigation, Swachh Bharat mission, education. All you can see there is increase in the allocation. And see that is one important thing. On expenditure, we have not compromised a lot. 24-25 government's total expenditure is budgeted to be around 48 trillion rupees, right? And in the previous year it was around 44 trillion rupees. So we are raising government expenditure by total government expenditure by nearly 10%, and we are reducing deficit, which is an encouraging thing. So naturally this cannot happen unless you raise your revenue, right? So that's why many of the government employees or maybe salaried employees are not happy that there was no significant reduction in their tax liability. People are expecting that there will be standard deduction of 5 lakhs, not done, so many are unhappy. But you see the justification for that. There is a need to maintain your expenditure. There is a need to go for fiscal consolidation. This cannot happen if you reduce your tax revenue. So that's how you can see this budget is seeing a budgeted marginal rise in the tax receipts. And this is the investment which I was talking about. During the period of high growth, investment used to be around 35-36% rate, right? Then there is a decline. So you see the Indian economic growth was down in between, and there is a uptick now after the 2021 crisis, and this need to be further pushed up to nearly 35%. So this cannot happen if government is not undertaking fiscal consolidation. So my take broadly is this is a good budget for sustaining your long-term economic growth and realizing the dream of Bikasit Bharat by 2047 or 50. And the private investment is rising over the years, and this is a time to support that. Not only government has to come up with this capital expenditure, this will be supplementary, complementing the private investments also. And the finance minister has basically put these 9 items as the priority areas in the union budget. So all the items are there. Individual items I'm not discussing, but broadly the theme is, I was given 15 minutes, so I think I'm running out of time, so quickly I'll summarize. So all these areas of emphasis are in the direction of improving the productivity of industry, agriculture, expanding investment in across all the areas, so overall promoting long-term economic growth and development for India, right? So in that direction, I appreciate the current budget. And if you have specific questions later on, I'll take up. I'll stop here. Thank you.
So you listen to Professor Samantaraya in an era of populist budgeting happening across the country, across the globe, across the states. There is always a dilemma between rational budget and a populist budget for all the governments. Understanding the macroeconomic impact of budget 2024 is for the first timers other than the economic students sitting here, it is always a very difficult task. I think Professor Samantaraya has made it so simple for all of you with the graphs and pictures to understand the impact of Union Budget 2024, how it looks like in a longer term. I think let us appreciate Professor Samantaraya for his valuable contribution today for enriching your knowledge. Now, the another important aspect of budget is industry. I think when you compare, if you have happened to see the budget allocation for agriculture versus industry, though we call it as an agrarian economy, we claim, but the amount allocated for agriculture and the amount allocated for infrastructure and the industry is multiple times more than the agriculture. So clearly there is a favorable environment prevailing. Looking at the Vikshit Bharat Professor was mentioning, to build the future 2047, there is a huge outlay for industry sector. So we have an industry representative here to give their perspective with regard to Union Budget 2024 from the view of an industrialist. I now invite Mr. Shanmuganandam sir to put forth his views for the benefit of our students. Welcome, sir.
So very good morning, and first of all I'd like to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor and the Professor Mariappan sir and fellow panelists, and also my friend and my family friend Mr. Murugan sir is here for the wonderful hospitality he has provided today. And so as from the industry perspective, how we look at the budget. So generally as an industry we look at the budget in the following titles. First thing is the tax, then the incentives, import duties, then loans, and it goes on. These are the main parameters we look at it. And when Professor Amrish was talking about the Vikshit Bharat, the developed India, that is what the goal of the government, which has been told for past few decades, at least for the past 10 years, we have been telling that we wanted to be the developed India by 2047. So that's the goal of our country. So how do we reach this 2047, and whether this current budget is going to support this Vikshit Bharat goal or dream, whatever we are naming it. So how are we going to reach that goal? So from the industry, how we see is like when Sir was mentioned about the our GDP, 8% the current GDP, and to reach this, reach as a developed country by 2047, we need to reach somewhere around $30 trillion from the current revenue of $3.9 or $4 trillion as a fifth largest economy in the world. So to reach that $30 trillion economy by 2047, we have to grow in a percentage of not at 8, we need to grow in a percentage of 10 plus. So 10 plus, and it has to be sustained at least for next 2 decades. Then only we can able to reach that 2047 goal, whatever we are aiming for. So the 10% or plus is the GDP. Actually, we have to maintain it for next 2 decades. Otherwise, the Viksit Bharat is not, it's going to be difficult for us. Are we going to look after only the GDP of 8% or the per capita income, which is important for as a country, as a citizen, or as an industrialist? So what is important to us? Are we going to maintain this 10% GDP, or are we going to worry about this per capita income of $1,700 plus $1,750 what we are currently having, and we are aiming about $14,000 by 2047. So if we maintain 10% and if we lose that per capita income, is it going to be a developed country? No, right? So we have to focus on per capita income and also the GDP of 10%. And sustaining it for next 2 decades is going to be really, really important. In that perspective, we look after this budget. So what is given in the budget for long-term goals? We also see the first time sometimes the economies and industries vary in their point of views, but this time it's somehow matching, because we also see this budget as a long-term budget. Because to reach this 2047 goal as a Viksit Bharat goal, who are we competing against? We are competing against not Europeans or Americans. We are competing against our neighboring country, China. And currently the trade deficit between China and India is very, very huge, and they are currently about 18 trillion, close to 18, 19 trillion dollar, and we are only 3.9 trillion dollar. And we are competing in every sector. So we also look at the budget, how are we going to compete against China, and what are the terms we expect from the government in the budget. The first thing we expect is the import duty. So there are certain areas the government has to support the industry in terms of import duty, like implementing anti-dumping duty in certain sectors. That also we expect as an industry. Then only we can able to compete with China. Because China is producing products for the global market, and India is producing the product currently for the Indian market. So to compete against China, we need to improve our infrastructure. We need to invest more on our infrastructure, which is going to be like, we have to create massive infrastructure like China. So the 11.11 lakhs crore on the infrastructure is definitely is going to help us in that way. So we need to invest more on the infrastructure. And the trade deficit is another thing, which especially we lose the trade deficit on oil imports and semiconductors and electronics. These are the major area we lose our trade deficit. Main is oil, the second one is the electronic and other imports. If you look at India and China trade deficits, we are almost 70% less than what we export to, 70-80% less than what we export to China, and we import more from China. Government is focusing now on R&D, spending about 1.1 lakh crore, I think, allotted for R&D. That is something very important. In that area, even we would like to invite the educational institutes to be part of it along with the industry, something which which is missing and lacking in our Indian industries. The industries and educational academia has to collaborate and work on R&D. Otherwise, we cannot go and compete in technologies with the Western countries. We can say a few examples, like we are the largest IT engineers producing countries in the world. Am I right? Yeah. But we don't have a single OS for us. I mean the operating system. Can't we make our own operating system? Even though we are the largest IT engineer production country, we are dependent on technology. Even for OS, even for any technology, we have been used as the consumers, but we have never given an opportunity to own a technology. And we should think about it. For that, we definitely need to do an aggressive way to approach that issue. So only industry cannot achieve that. So academia has to come forward to collaborate with the industry to create a new technology, and each and everyone has the duty to achieve that. So that's one of the area which I have been talking in many institutions that we need to create our own IPR along with industry. So industry has to collaborate with the academia, and academia has to collaborate with industry to work on new technology and R&D. So I think the rest of the points we can discuss during our panel discussion. And overall, my opinion is that I align with the economics view. This budget is the long-term budget. The budget is for long-term growth budget. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So now you listen to the industrialist view. He has reason to smile because 11.11 lakh crore, one of the largest beneficiary of 2024 budget. Now we have to also take the view of our journalist perspective about the our budget 2024. We have with us our Mr. Shiny Jacob. He comes with a lot of experience from the journalist side. I think his view will be definitely going to be very interesting because he doesn't belong to any side of the sector. We are looking forward to you, sir, to listen to your view because two of the previous speakers, they are very happy and they have appreciated of the Union Budget 2024. But let us wait and see how do you look at it, the Union Budget. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. Our respected Vice Chancellor, Professor K. Pondicherry, our fellow panelists, Professor Amrish, Mr. Shanmuganandam, and Mariappan, sir. There is an advantage, there is a disadvantage as far as the last panelist is concerned. Whatever you wanted to tell, someone would have already discussed. So that part is there. But I would try to give a Hawkeye view on how a journalist will be seeing a budget when it is presented or even before that. To start with, we are now discussing a budget, but unfortunately, or maybe an irony, in another 6 months' time, we will be coming up with another budget. It's like a long process that will go into the budget. So a journalist's life will start, as far as budget will start, 6 months in advance when the finance ministry comes out with a circular. So the circular goes to, sir might have discussed it before in the last session. So the circular goes to the field, all the field officers, and these officers come up with their expenditure and receipt side of it, and how the budget is being viewed and their demands will be coming before finance ministry. So that's how it works. But as far as journalists are concerned, we will always look for our articles starting from these 6 months. There will be various times that what a particular ministry is expecting from a budget, what CIA is expecting from a budget, or FICCI or other organizations are expecting from a budget. So our life also starts with a budget 6 months in advance. So why I would say that we will look for stories, there is a bit of background attached to that. India's budget, once it got leaked in 1950, Indian budget got leaked and a finance minister had to resign. So since then, every journalist's dream is to get some pie, some information out of budget before it comes out. But somehow none of us get that information, whatever it is. What we do is that we look at budget in a different way compared to the industry and also from the economist side of it. Coming to this budget, particularly if you look at it, the finance minister this time tried to maintain a balance between jobs, growth, and also fiscal consolidation that he mentioned. So it's a fine balance that the finance minister has maintained this time. So these three, I would like to mention a few aspects of this budget which would be of interest to youngsters like you. For example, jobs. There is a lot of focus that has been given to jobs. At least the thought about jobs has been, it's in forefront now. you have schemes for the first-time employees, schemes for employers. You have a scheme, and then ITIs are being backed. Skilling is given importance. The skilling actually is going to revolutionize as far as rural India is concerned. So there is a lot of job opportunities that are being created. At least the efforts are there. So will this solve the job issues as far as country is concerned? Well, I should say it's just the beginning as far as job security or our need for creating further jobs is concerned. Because he mentioned about the need to grow at 10% level to reach a $30 trillion economy by 2047. The Vikasit Bharat concept, if it has to be, if we have to achieve that Vikasit Bharat concept, then jobs should be created. At the same time, these jobs should be created in various sectors. That's one factor. Manufacturing should be there. IT should be there. Services, other sectors should be there. So it should be evenly balanced that ways. So the government's one of the major focus was jobs for sure, and it needs to be seen how this will evolve further. But at the same time, I will have to say that the allocation for education has probably come down a little bit. So that's one thing that needs to be seen, because considering that the new education policy is coming, how it will have an impact on the policy and its implementation, that needs to be seen. And another factor, major important factor which I would like to highlight is infrastructure development. He mentioned about 11.11 lakh crore in infrastructure investment that is going to happen in the country. Probably traditionally, if you look at, when you say about infrastructure development, it mainly goes in three sectors. One, roads, then it goes to railways, and then comes to defense. So the capex investments, infrastructure capex, capital expenditure. So these three sectors take a larger share of infrastructure capital expenditure as far as budget is concerned. But if you look at current budget or even the budget before elections that was presented by the finance minister, one factor that we can notice is that probably the share of these three capital expenditure share of these three key sectors have grown only marginally by around 3 to 4% probably. And in fact, if you look at railways and roads, it's the highest ever capital allocation, and railways also it's the highest ever capex, but the growth is very marginal. There is one particular reason for that. When you look at the capital expenditure, the country has, in the last few years, has seen a remarkable jump as far as government capex is concerned. A 30% odd jump is there. So at the same time, this year it's 17%, if I'm right. So, yeah, 17% is there. Yes, 20, so that ways, when you are growing, when you are investing at 30%, then it will have to be some mid-level has to be there. So that's why that 17% mark the finance minister maintained this time. But at the same time, one needs to look at one more point that is attached to that. 2020, government came out with a national infrastructure investment plan, which actually planned to invest around $108 trillion, so rupees 108 trillion by 2025. So somehow that investment cycle, that expected investment cycle is not happening at this point of time. We are we are seeing a rise as far as investments in from the government side of concern. Then why it is not happening? It is probably not happening because there is a reduction as far as private sector investments are concerned. So when you see some data indicates that private sector investments have come down by 15.3% in 23-24. So that's that means there needs to be some sort of confidence building that should happen as far as private sector is concerned. Probably CIA will be able to give a better perspective on that. One major reason from the government side, probably I believe, as a journalist, would be that private sector may be waiting for demand generation. So demand generation is a huge factor as far as the economy is concerned. Rural economy is yet to come back to its full normalcy probably. So maybe these may be some of the reasons why private sector is still hesitant on investing further. And once private sector start investing, then it will create more jobs. It will be a boost for the economy. That's when the internship schemes that were mentioned in the budget, it will get a huge boost, because that will be linked to their CSR funding. So, there will be a huge creation of jobs that is required from the side of private sector and public sector. So it's a tripartite deal that should happen: center, state, and the private sector. If you look at 80% of around 80% of the jobs created, or 80% of the investment that are happening, are still coming from the private sector. So that is a huge factor as far as we are concerned. We need to get more investment from the private sector, especially manufacturing sector, and this is a huge opportunity as far as private sector is concerned. Looking at the global conditions, because we are looking at a China plus one policy globally. And when you're looking at that, the private sector has a huge role to play, especially in India. And we should also look at, as a country, we should also look at more FDI. So, for example, in the case of in the economic survey, we have seen that there was in the economic survey there was a specific page as far as China plus one policy is concerned. So there we were saying that in order to benefit the most out of China plus one policy, we have to come up with a dual approach. One, either we have to synergize with the supply chain, their supply chain, or we will have to bring in more FDI from China, so that exports can happen from our country. That means companies can come up with their investments to our country from China. So this is one way of looking at it. And another part, fiscal consolidation, sir mentioned in detail. So I believe that the overall strategy will be to bring down the debt to GDP ratio from around 58% now to probably 50% when it is in the range of 3.7 to 4.4. So the overall strategy will be like that as far as government is concerned. So these three are the major highlights that I wanted to bring to your attention. One is infrastructure for sure. 11.1 lakh crore investment is huge. Then job creation, and the third aspect is the fiscal consolidation strategy program by the government. So I would we may be able to discuss in detail later in the session. So we as journalists on the day, I would like to add this part as well. On the day of budget, as journalists, most of the things is that sometimes it's very difficult for us, sometimes it's funny. For example, I was covering railways this time. So there was not even a single word from the finance minister in her budget speech about railways. Remember that in 2016-17 we had a separate railway budget. But that does not mean that if you are not mentioned, if railways is not mentioned in the budget, that does not mean that the allocation to railways or the capex spent in railways has come down. It's at 2.62 lakh crore, and the government share budget, gross budgetary support out of that is 2.4 lakh crore. So the one thing happening in the infrastructure segment is the diversification in sector. Probably I missed out on that point. While this 4% increase is there in these key sectors, other sectors are seeing a lot of the capex is coming from the diverse sectors. That is one advantage that I am seeing in this budget. For example, urban development is seeing a 20% increase probably. So all these are the key highlights as far as from a journalist point of view. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Look forward to more questions from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunny Jacob sir, for giving the journalistic perspective of our union budget. There is a difference between hearing and listening. Do you know that? And I appreciate the last 1 hour, you are all not in the hearing mode, you are into the listening mode. I wish my professors and the panelists to appreciate our audience by giving a round of applause for the audience. I was just observing, I also took, somebody must have noticed, I also took a video sitting there. How many of you are on the listening mode? Writing, absolutely, you are wonderful, and you have been a very good audience so far. And I wish another 15-20 minutes you maintain the same spirit.